All right, so what are we calling it again?
Tales from the Uncharted Territories.
That was it, yes.
Wait, is this the intro? Have you already...
Oh, was it? No, it wasn't. Hello and welcome to Tales of the Uncharted Territories.
Hello. It's another fanfic week here at So Farscape Studios. I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay.
And this is the... Now... Okay, we'll work something out. At least we've sort of...
This is a story So Farscape.
I like that. We've at least figured out the sort of ending, and this is a quick reminder for you and me, Kay, my good friend, that at the end we're going to sign off with our favorite quotes, or try... From the story that we're about to read. So,
geez, I have to make notes.
Keep an eye. Okay, well, it'll just be best effort.
Okay, right. Let's go for that then. Today's story is life lessons.
Yes, this was sent to us by. Yes, sent to us by Kathy. Published in 2006. Written by KernilCrash over on the terraformerscapers.com forum.
The purveyor of hallucinations.
Where do you see that?
It says it under KernilCrash, under their name. It's like the little bio that you see on the side of the...
Oh, God, yes. You could do those on forums. You could have a little sort of bio.
Apparently 11,305 posts on that forum. So
Yikes.
Quite the prolific poster.
Oh, and an administrator on Terra Firma Escaper. We better do their story
you said
justice.
2006, but here it says first posted March 18th, 2005.
Well, 2005 then.
Yeah.
I'll fix it.
Rating PG, category lightweight, just because I felt it fic.
This story is the result of my brain getting hung up on a single line from an episode in Season 1. You'll know what line it is when you see it. Oh, yes. I had a note here that it was relevant up to, 105? Oh, I guess we'll find out. Oh, yes. It takes place shortly after Thank God It's Friday again.
All right. Aaron's son stalked into the center chamber, looked around at the individuals who were working their way through various stages of the midday meal, and treated the entire multi-species group to an angry scowl. The glower promised physical violence in response to even the most innocuous comment and effectively brought all conversation to an abrupt stop.
Zahn gave her a cautious, benign smile and asked, "Is there a problem, Aaron?"
"Crichton," Aaron said, as though the two syllables were explanation enough.
Fair. "Oh, what has he done now?" Rigel asked through a mouthful of food cubes. Oh yeah, it was early days. They only had food cubes.
Oh, yes.
"I haven't heard an explosion in days, so he can't be attempting to learn about Moya systems again."
"He's done frelling nothing," Aaron said, making a fast, frustrated gesture with both hands. "That's the problem. He said he would help me with that adjustment to the Prowler's nav system, and he never showed up."
How would he know how to adjust a Prowler's nav system?
Maybe she needed someone to hold the wires while she
Oh,
was
yeah,
like,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Dargo let out a rumbling, sarcastic laugh. "Ha ha ha! I wouldn't have believed it possible, but I think he's becoming even less useful with each passing day."
"Not possible," Rigel said. "There's no room left on the bottom of the scale."
Gosh, they're really heaping on
they
poor
kind
old
of-
Johnny
they
here.
kind of were, yeah.
Zahn made a placating, pushing gesture with both hands and then looked toward Aaron. "I'm sure he has good reason for not meeting you. He does not like Crichton to simply not show up when he agreed to be there. What did he say when you asked him?"
Aaron looked towards the corridor as though Crichton might magically appear in the doorway, and then she shrugged and joined the rest of the group at the table. "I haven't been able to find him. He isn't answering his comms."
"Probably hiding again," Dargo said. "Give him 3 solar days to appear. That's what it took last time." Oh, yeah, true.
I think that's the line we were talking. Aaron glared suspiciously at the Luxon, one eyebrow performing a gradual quizzical levitation. The adjustment modified her expression from anger to a less potential explosive form of aggravated curiosity.
Wow.
"Does he have a reason to be hiding?" she asked finally.
"Not from me," Dargo said.
Aaron relaxed and began assembling a meal from the meager ration spread out across the table. If he's hiding for some other reason, then his time is up.
The center chamber went quiet as the message sank in. Zahn was the first to break the silence. "When is the last time any of you saw him?"
Aaron answered. "I just told you. The last time I saw him was 3 solar days ago at first meal. That was when he agreed to help me with the Prowler."
Rigel waved a stubby hand in the air. I saw him on his bed 2 days ago. It was in the middle of the day and he was sleeping. Lazy creature. Trying to teach him how to survive here is a waste of our time and effort, if you ask me."
And Dargo spared a micro to snarl. "No one asked you," at the Hynerian. And then he turned towards Zahn. Crichton hasn't joined us for a meal in the past 2 days. I assumed he was skulking for some reason known only to him.
Erin jabbed a food cube in Dargo's general direction before tossing it into her mouth. He's probably hiding because you threatened to kill him again. When did you last promise to slit his throat with your qualter blade? Or maybe you used that other wonderfully barbaric Luxon thread that you like so much, the one about pulling his intestines out through some opening in his body.
Neither, Dargo said, followed by an annoyed hiss. And Crichton scares too easily. I walked by his cell on the way to the command the other morning. All I did was startle him by coming around a corner when he didn't expect it, and he went off to some sort of fit. His entire species is deficient.
Racist.
Yeah.
What sort of fit? Zahn asked. Perhaps this is something to do with why he's missing.
Like this. Dargo went into an extended performance that consisted of bulging eyes, a gaping mouth, and a series of gulps, wheezes, and coughs.
Oh, whoa.
The reenactment ended with a deep gargling noise similar to the one Moya made when one of her amnexus drains became clogged, and she disgorged the blockage back into whatever chamber had created the problem. Erin grimaced and pushed her tray away, no longer hungry.
Yeah, I can relate. That sounds like the Luxon excuse for a love sonnet, Rigel said.
Pilot, Zahn called over a rapidly escalating Luxon-Hynerian argument. Where is Crichton?
Unknown. There is no sign of him in his quarters, and neither the DRDs nor the internal sensors are currently detecting his presence.
Erin got to her feet. For the first time since she has entered the chamber, she began to look concerned about Crichton's absence. That pathetic ship of his is still in the maintenance bay. I was just down there. It hasn't been moved.
Pilot, Zahn called again. Would the internal sensors detect his body if he were dead or injured?
Crichton! Erin shouted over her comms at the same time that Zahn was getting an answer from Pilot. Crichton, where are you? There was no answer. Frell, she said after several more microts passed without a response. She turned towards Zahn. What did Pilot say?
It would depend on what section of the ship Crichton is in, Zahn said, relaying the answer she had received. Oh wow, she's like Sigourney Weaver in Galaxy Quest. As you already know, the internal sensors do not cover all tiers and chambers. If he is lying unconscious in one of those areas... She spread her hands, letting the gesture finish the thought for her.
Erin headed for the door at a run. If his ship is here, then he hasn't left Moya. He must be injured.
Rigel, having ended the meaningless squabble with Dargo by the simple expedient of turning his back on the Luxon and leaving the table, floated closer to Zahn and said, Or he's managed to get lost and simply forgot to take his comms with him.
Erin came skidding to a halt half a motra from the doorway. Everyone else stopped talking long enough to consider this newest possibility. What the Dominar had just described had happened several times during the first days Crichton had been on board the Leviathan.
Okay, so I think this is a really fun sort of reference to the fact that Ben Browder he sort of stopped bothering with his comms after, I think, 5 episodes.
Oh, okay.
I think this is about, like, thank God it's Friday again, because it just couldn't be bothered. And then, like, his excuse on the chat was, he was concerned about it being discovered whenever he goes to a planet, like in Thank God It's Friday again. And so he hides it on the inside of his belt. That's where it is.
Sense. I mean, like the way Zahn wears it on her, the cuff of her sleeve most of the time, I suppose.
Yes, Virginia Hay was very proud that of all of them, she was the only one who consistently used it and like actually figured out, okay, I tap it to respond, and then I talk into it, then I tap it again, and nobody else did it. Okay, it was Dargo who shook his head and discarded the suggestion. No, he knows his way around Moya now. He hasn't gotten lost in well over 10 days. Oh. 10 days?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's an old-fashioned sort of measure of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last time it happened, he knew enough to find a ladder and start climbing until he reached Tier 1 and then worked his way back down to a spot he recognized. Erin is correct. He must be injured. Wait, is that a threat? He must be injured!
Or of skulking over some imagined insult, Erin said. Oh, sorry.
Not for 3 solar days, Zahn said. She held up a hand, stilling Rigel's open-mouthed, impending objection. Or even 2 days. Crichton may sometimes be impatient with the way we treat him, but given the chance, he regains his temper quickly. We should find him and make sure he's all right.
We should finish our meal first and then search for him, Dargo grumbled.
Erin crossed the center chamber in 3 long strides and slapped the Luxon's meal tray into a corner. A brief hailstorm of food cubes made a moist pattering against the walls and floor. Oh, thank you. I was about to say, I love the sort of visuals in this story. It's very well written. She leaned across the table until her nose was no more than 4 dentures from Dargo's and said, There, you're done with your meal. Now you can help the rest of us find Crichton. The sooner we find out what's happened to him, the sooner we can all resume our usual activities.
Dargo's eyes flickered past her for a microt, and then returned to stare into hers with a hint of triumph in his expression. In that case, we can go about our business, and since I wasn't finished with my meal, you can get me more to eat. Wait, that was like... never mind.
It took Aaron a microt as well to realize what he was saying. Comprehension was followed by a fast sprint toward the door. Crichton was standing there, one shoulder leaning against the edge of the rounded opening, looking more disheveled and pathetic than he had the first day she'd met him. "Where the frell have you been?" Aaron demanded, straightening up. "You said you would help me with that nav refit today."
You don't want to know the details where I've been. He turned his attention from Aaron to Zahn and addressed Adelphian. I've contacted the intergalactic version of intestinal creeping crud.
Yikes. Zahn summed up Crichton's unlaced boots, wrinkled pants, sweat-stained t-shirt, mussed hair, and his pasty, sweating complexion before anyone else managed to figure out what he was saying and was on her feet immediately. "What are your symptoms?"
My guts are doing their best to crawl out of my body by any means possible. I haven't been able to eat anything in a couple of days, and I think I'm pregnant by a space alien. He raised
Guilty.
his shirt,
Oh,
revealing
whoa.
a rounded, protruding stomach that indeed, in fact, looked as though he had somehow been impregnated at some point.
"I assume that human males do not carry the young," Zahn said. She was beside Crichton, running one hand over his distended stomach.
Crichton managed to look both exhausted from the mysterious affliction and horrified at Zahn's suggestion. No, definitely not. We don't have the right stuff inside for that. But... He broke off and looked around at his audience.
"But what, Crichton?" Zahn asked. "You need to tell me what is happening if I'm to determine what sort of malady this is."
He jerked his head towards where Aaron, Dargo, and Rigel were watching the impromptu examination, then looked down at Zahn. She was on her knees in front of him, cautiously prodding his stomach. Can we finish this somewhere else? The peanut gallery doesn't need to know the status of my digestive tract.
Oh. "If this is contagious, they have a right to know what you've contracted. What have you omitted? Has this caused vomiting?" Zahn asked.
Puking is the only thing I haven't been doing over the past few days.
"Then what else? What haven't you told us?"
After an additional 5 microts of hesitation, John shrugged his surrender and said, Whatever is causing this, it's sort of... I think it's alive. It feels like something is moving around in there.
Yikes.
And it's the most horrible sensation I have ever felt in my entire life. Whatever it is, you have to get it out, Zahn. Now. I don't care what it takes. Just get it out of there before it hatches and explodes out of the middle of my chest.
Sick 8 John Hurt reference there, buddy. "Some sort of parasite," the Delvian theorized.
All we've had to eat for days are food cubes, Dargo said. Wait, that was my Rigel voice. Never mind. There isn't a parasiting extension that would that would choose to infest food cubes.
"It could have come from something we ingested on a planet," Aaron said. "If Crichton had become infected, then it's likely the rest of us have as well. He never touches anything unless one of us eats it first."
Aside from a mild case of indigestion, which I assume is the result of consuming this foul excuse for rations, I feel fine, came from Rigel.
You know, I've been an editor and a writer before, and like you always sort of struggle with the dialogue, right?
Yeah.
And saying like who says what and when he said and she said. I'm getting around to that. I really appreciate fan fiction in screenplay format now. That would make our lives a lot easier.
Yes, that you can just like see which you don't have to like
Which voice do I have to do?
Quickly scan to the end of the line to see which.
Aaron spared Rigel a fast grimace and a shake of her head. "Your body turns tannat root into chakan oil. I doubt there is an organism in existence that can survive your digestive tract. It's the rest of us who have to worry about this."
What about you? John asked Zahn. Are you worried about contracting Magrazuma's ultimate revenge? Who's Magrazuma?
That's like Space Montezuma.
Oh, right. What if this is transmitted by contact?
"My species is not susceptible to the sorts of parasitic infections that would affect the rest of you. The possibility of cross-contamination is negligible, John." Zahn straightened up, her probing of Crichton's stomach completed. "I can't make a competent determination here." She took John by the arm and steered him into the corridor. "The scanner in the maintenance bay should be able to tell us what is causing this. Once I know the nature of the problem, I'm confident I'll be able to formulate a cure."
Would that be before or after this thing eats out my brain and takes over my body?
"Preferably before," she said with a small laugh. Oh, that is a well-written Zahn line.
After, Rigel said at the same time. It might be an improvement.
Crichton wheeled around, forcing the Hynerian to swerve in order to avoid a collision. For the first time since he had appeared in the doorway to the center chamber, he exhibited some energy. "Nowhere you coming with us, Buckwheat. I'm not going to put up with you running commentary on the internal components of my body while Zan figures this out. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm sick. I can relate. I feel like I'm going to die. I just spent the better part of 2 days sitting..." He paused, considering Aaron's and Dargo's presence for several microts. "The past couple of days within crawling distance of the waste alcove in my cell, and I don't have the energy to put up with your crap. The three of you stay here. Zan can calm you with the bad news, or good news if it turns out I'm going to die."
"No!" Aaron and Dargo said together.
Aww.
Aaron continued alone. "If you have infected the rest of us with the disease, we have the right to know what it is as soon as possible. We're coming. Aside from that, you look like you're about to fall down. Zan may need us to carry you to the maintenance bay."
John expended another 4 microts staring at the pair of warriors who were standing side by side with similar, mildly concerned frowns, and gave in without argument. "Whatever, but not Rigel. One moderate-sized release from the flatulator over here, and I stand a good chance of hurling all over the inside of the maintenance bay. He stays here." He turned and stumbled after Zan. "Does helium do that?"
"No.
I didn't think so."
No, it's colorless, it's odorless, it's like..."
"So your loyal subjects tell you."
Aaron and Dargo exchanged glances. "That was too easy," she said. "Crichton never gives in that quickly."
"He must be sicker than he looks," Dargo said. "We better stay with him in case he falls down after all."
Aaron turned to face the Domino. "Rigel, you stay here. No arguments."
"But..." the Hynerian began.
"No," Aaron said impatiently. She turned and hurried after Crichton and Zan.
"But..." Rigel tried again.
"Crichton is correct," Dargo said in a low growl. "One release from you, and we will all have to endure the added stench of his stomach contents being spewed all over Moya's maintenance bay. You stay here." Without bothering to check if he had convinced Rigel, he too hurried off in the same direction the others had taken.
"But I was going to say that I believe I know what's wrong with him," Rigel said, earbrows drooping in dejection. "But no one ever listens to me." He wheeled his chair around and... Wheeled?
Yeah.
Wheeled his chair around and re-entered the center chamber. Viewing the remains of the meal, he suddenly looked happier. "On the other hand, now there is more for me."
Despite Aaron's gloomy prediction, Crichton made it to the maintenance bay without a problem, albeit more slowly than usual. Zan had the scanner powered up and waiting for him by the time he rounded the corner with Aaron and Dargo trailing along behind him. He circled the apparatus several times, eyeing the unfamiliar components and the various displays. "You're not going to have to put me in the deep freeze like Aaron did to Rigel, are you?" he asked.
"Would it make any difference I did?" Zan asked in return. She made several adjustments to the controls. "Several hundred microts ago you told me you didn't care what it took to cure whatever is wrong with you. Have you changed your mind?"
"I'm worried about what portion of my body Aaron might take it into her head to snap off once you got turned me into a dunsicle." "Living nor dying isn't going to matter if I thaw out with certain bits missing."
Zan laughed. "I'm glad to see your sense of humor hasn't suffered from whatever is bothering you. Freezing shouldn't be necessary, unless the contents of your stomach are explosive. Stand here, John." She pointed to a spot in front of the scanner.
"Who's making jokes? I was serious," he muttered under his breath, but followed her instructions anyway.
The scan was over in a matter of microts. It took several more moments before the hollow imaging system began weaving together a representation of Crichton's midsection, working from the outside inward, performing a painless, virtual dissection of his body. Zan was watching intently, leaning closer again once it began mapping out his intestinal tract.
"By the goddess," she breathed after several microts. "You didn't."
"Didn't what? What did I do now?" he asked, trying to see around her. "What's wrong with me?"
"Surely someone warned you, Crichton. This could have been fatal if you had waited any longer. It would have been fatal."
"What? What's causing this?" He managed to crane his neck far enough to the side to peer around Zan. Before he could make any sense of the display, Dargo and Aaron shouldered him aside and leaned in close to the hollow image, blocking his view. After several microts of study, all three straightened up and turned as one to look at him.
"Crichton, you are an idiot," Aaron said first.
"Would someone tell me what I'm supposed to have done?" John yelled.
"I told you," Dargo bellowed. "Never swallow the dentic. You ate one."
No, John shook his head vehemently. "I did not eat a dentic. You startled the crap out of me the other morning and I damn near inhaled the damn worm. I was lucky it just went down my throat instead of my windpipe. What's the problem? I just digested it like everything else I dump into my stomach, right? He looked around at the others. Right. Oh, so it's Dargo's fault.
Yeah, Zan was already at the workbench that held her apothecary and supply of herbs, selecting various vials and materials. No, John, dentics can survive in the most inhospitable environment. They thrive on bacteria and substances we would normally consider poisonous. That's why it's so important never to swallow one.
Dargo didn't explain that part. He just said never swallow it. I figured it was because they were tough to get a hold of or something. He looked down at his distended stomach. So what have I got? A 200-pound dentic in there? Am I going to give birth to a bouncing baby monster worm? Yikes.
Here, drink this. Zan handed him a container half full of a thick, greenish sludge.
I like that she just sort of had it ready.
She just, I guess, emergency
Antidentic
dentic treatment. Yeah.
Sludge. Do you know what the contraceptive pill is called in German?
No.
Anti-baby-pillen.
Okay.
Right?
That makes sense, yeah.
So she's just got like anti-swallow dentic sludge.
I still love the American ones where they sell it as Plan B.
Wait, yeah? Oh, yeah. No, okay, yes, okay. Ugh. Bit of, like, not the same kind of innocent imagery there. Well, wait, no, Plan B is the morning after. It's not the contraception.
Oh, right, sorry, I'm right, yeah, I'm confused. Sorry, yes, Plan B is...
Okay, so that's why it...
No, never mind. Sorry.
God, I wish we edited these.
Make us so much funnier.
Yeah. Crichton checked on his audience first. Aaron and Dargo were standing to one side, both with their arms folded across their chests, looking as though they were watching a particularly inept warrior who had just managed to wound himself with his own weapon. Yeah. Fortunately, they weren't saying anything. Once he had confirmed that the heckling had drawn at least to a temporary halt, he turned his attention to the flask and its contents. He started by sniffing it. God, it smells like a compost heap.
Zahn gave his hand an upward nudge. Drink it, John. All of it.
What's it do? He chugged down a portion of the mixture. Oh, God, that's awful. It not only smells like a compost heap, it tastes like a compost heap.
The first thing a dentic does after being swallowed is consume all the bacteria in your stomach, with the sort of results you might expect.
Whoa. Are there bacteria in your stomach?
Ooh, well, I can't imagine there aren't. I mean, it's just
it seems like
fairly acidic environment, not just like super. I mean, I don't think there's any bacteria which like kind of live there or thrive there. I mean, just the stuff that comes in on the food that you already eaten. I don't think there's like an active bacterial colony.
Okay, I guess there's a lot that I don't know. Like,
yeah,
are you constantly like, what do you do with the stomach acid? Does that go down into the gully works?
Yeah, of course, that gets mixed in.
And then does that get like reabsorbed? Okay, well, okay, maybe this is for some other podcast explains that. I know that part all too well, Zan. Do not get more than 6 feet from the waist alcove. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Do not bother pulling up your pants, John chanted, and then choked down some more of the thick liquid. Whoa.
After all the bacteria have been consumed, a dentic will begin feeding on every bit of food it can locate in your digestive tract.
Which would explain why I feel like I've been on a hunger strike, John said between swallows.
Once it's well fed, it begins to multiply. I don't like where this is going.
Dude, I really do. This is some really good sci-fi.
I know. But
I mean, I'm with you. It's really gross, but this is so cool. This is some Star Trek shit. Dren. Crichton gagged, choked, and spewed a spattering mouthful of liquid across several square mottras of the floor. It's breeding inside me? That's what I've been feeling? He stumbled to one side, holding his stomach with his free hand. Whoa, it's like a really gross tribble.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not what he said, sorry. Oh God, vomiting is the one thing these little bastards haven't put me through so far, but I think I'm about to puke.
That's why your stomach is swollen. Keep drinking, John.
This cannot be happening. I cannot be the breeding ground for a colony of squirming dropouts from dental college. Please tell me this is a bad dream.
Ignoring his groans of dismay, Zahn gestured towards the flask in his hand. Drink all of it.
What does this do? He closed his eyes, chugged the rest of it. Hold on, sound effect. For extra realism. And then fumbled the container down onto the top of the workbench.
How do you feel now? Zahn asked.
You mean aside from the fact that I'd like to die?
Yes, aside from that.
I really like your Zahn, by the way. I'm going to start doing that as well. He stood still for several moments, looking increasingly thoughtful. Better. They aren't moving around as much. Yeah, better. What was that stuff?
Poison, Zahn said.
Poison? He yelled incredulously. You poisoned me? That's your idea of a cure?
A bubbling Delvian laugh brought his screams to an abrupt halt. It's poisonous only to Dentix, Crichton. The combination of plant alkaloids in that mixture is one of the few things that will kill a Dentic. In most species, it works quickly without damaging the host. They should all be dead in a few more microts.
Most species, John muttered. And what if my species isn't lucky enough to be on the correct list?
It's harmless to Sebaceans. You should be all right. Come on. Carrying another drinking container in one hand, she gestured towards the corridor with the other.
Where are we going? He looked over his shoulder. Dargo and Aaron were still trailing along. Why do Statler and Waldorf have to come with us?
We're going to your quarters. I believe you'll be better off there for the next few hours. And Aaron and Dargo are coming because there's no reason why they shouldn't. I'm sure they are simply concerned about your welfare. In addition, you may require their assistance before this is over.
Okay, so she's a brilliant scientist and like herbalist, it turns out, but she is not a well-trained medical professional. You're supposed to tell people about the treatment before you perform it and the outcome and not leave these
needs work.
dramatic mysteries.
I mean, yes.
John's snort of disbelief came at the same time as the two barking laughs behind him. He glanced behind him again. After viewing his escort for several microts, he said, I guess I should thank my lucky stars. This isn't an intergalactic version of America's funniest home videos out there. At least that way I don't have to worry about them following me around with a video camera.
Whatever that means, John, Zahn said. Here we are. The foursome turned the corridor and entered John's quarters as a group. The Delvian guided him towards his bunk and then handed him a second drinking container, smaller than the first one. Drink this.
John reacted the same way as he had with the first portion of the cure. He stuck his nose into the top of the flask and took a hesitant sniff. He smiled, took a small sip, swallowed, and then sucked the remainder down in a hurry. Chocolate! It's the first thing I've run into out here that tastes even remotely like chocolate. He handed the empty container to Zahn. Can I have seconds?
I doubt you will want a second serving of this.
Oh, God.
How do you feel?
All three of his companions were watching him closely. John looked around at them, increasingly nervous as a result of their profound level of interest, and then let out a quiet belch. I will spare our listeners at home the sound effect. Not bad. A little overly full, maybe, but I'm feeling a lot better now that the bait farm has stopped moving around. How am I supposed to feel?
I had some to drink of that stuff once. Took me all of 10 microts, Aaron said. She looked towards Dargo. How about you?
I lasted no more than 12. He looked towards Zahn. I believe Delvians as a species are fortunate enough to never acquire this particular cure. How long has it been?
9 microts, Zahn said, and then continued counting. 10,
Mippipipi.
11,
Mippipipi.
12.
Mippipipi. Amazing, Aaron said. We have finally discovered something that Crichton can do better than the rest of us.
What am I doing better than the rest of... John turned a light green shade of pasty white and began easing towards the waist alcove. What exactly was that stuff, anyway?
Zahn interrupted her counting to explain. Mippipipi, the dead dentics must be purged from your body, John. Otherwise they putrefy inside your stomach and create a particularly virulent toxin. Sorry, I was going to do yours on. You would be dead in a matter of arms. 19, 20. This is quite remarkable.
Oh, God, John groaned in a voice that had become thick and guttural. He had one hand over his mouth while the other was holding his stomach. I don't like the sound of purged. With one more half-strangled groan, he spun around and bolted towards the waist alcove.
26 minutes, Zahn said. I was beginning to think... 26 microts, Zahn said. I was beginning to think I got the mixture wrong.
From inside the waist alcove came the sounds of a horrendously sick human violently ejecting the contents of his stomach. After several microts of unpleasant noises, the coughing and retching came to a stop.
I appreciate the euphemisms.
Oh, God, Zahn, that cannot have just come out from inside my body. That's disgusting.
That's what happens when you swallow a dentic, Aaron yelled back at it. That's what happens when you swallow a dentic! Aaron yelled back at him.
Crichton appeared in the doorway. He was pale and sweating, but looked happier than he had just an hour earlier. I'm never cleaning my teeth ever again. He took a step towards his bed.
Zahn caught him before he could move any further. No, John, you aren't going to want to leave the waist alcove just yet. This is going to take a while.
A while? How long is it? Oh, no. He whirled and bolted out of sight.
It's like in Harry Potter when Ron is hurling up snails.
Oh, yes. Ugh.
Someone will have to stay with him until this is over in order to make sure he's all right. Zan looked toward Aaron. You and he have formed a friendship?
No, Aaron said.
My dear, someone
else will have to stay. I am not going to stay in his quarters and listen to that. She gestured towards where they could hear Crichton being explosively sick to his stomach, for the next several hours. What about him? She jabbed a hand in Dargo's direction. He was the one who taught Crichton about dentics without warning him that this could happen. Dargo should be the one who has to stay.
No, the Luxon protested, both hands waving an accompanying denial. Listening to those sorts of noises makes me spew as well. Unless you want to clean up after both of us, I am not staying. Dargo headed for the door with Aaron on his heels.
Then we all stay, Zan called after them. In a way, we are all responsible for not adequately teaching Crichton about these sort of dangers. Therefore, we should all remain here until we are certain that he is well on the way to a full recovery.
Hell yeah, Zan. Zan, no! Came the simultaneous protests.
Yes, sit. It shouldn't take more than 5 or 6 hours for him to clear the latest of the dentics from his digestive tract.
I'll spew, Dargo said, slumping down onto Crichton's bed. I have used that argument myself to get out of chores.
Aaron perched on top of the storage shelves and glared in the general direction of the waste alcove. He took longer than anyone in the history of the known universe to respond to the emetic. How do we know he won't set a new record for this as well?
The sound of another bout of vomiting drifted out to them. This time, even Zan grimaced in response to the unpleasant serenade. We must be
Patient? Aaron asked.
Hopeful, Zan said. We must be hopeful that it does not require a great deal of time.
Well, that's an interesting scene. I mean, like, we've all been in situations where we had to care for someone in our company who was having a particularly bad spell of something or the other.
I have been immensely grateful to those who've provided that service to me. I've been very proud to be there for my friends who, misjudged their limits, or even later in their life, and when they're on certain medication, and then they realize, oh, you can't do everything, and then you. Yeah, it's a good thing to. It comes to a point where all you can do is just another glass of water.
Yeah.
Just
pat him on the back.
It's all going to be okay.
Maybe a pillow. Yeah.
Hold their hair.
Yeah. Crichton wandered into the maintenance bay, one hand full of food cubes and the other holding the largest drinking flask they had on board.
He's got his appetite back. Good.
Yeah. Stepping over and around several pieces of equipment, he made his way toward the prowler and the steady stream of summation that was coming from somewhere close to the sleek craft. Since most of the soliloquy, geez, what a word.
It's like a monologue.
Yeah, was getting past his microbes without being translated, he assumed it was a fluent stream of cursing.
Okay, I'm fascinated about this again.
The fact that it was coming from Erin provided some insight into a side of her personality he hadn't had an opportunity to see yet. The side that knew how to swear like a space-going sailor.
Yeah! Hey! He yelled.
The swearing stopped and Erin appeared in the cockpit. I didn't expect to see you out of bed so soon, she said. Most species would require at least 2 or 3 solar days to recover from what you went through. 1 night's rest is remarkable. How are you feeling?
I like this. Erin doesn't often get written as, in the stories that we've read so far, it doesn't get written as, like, sympathetic and caring. Everybody goes for the sort of brusque thing. I'm really digging this story. Like a newly flushed radiator, which is to say that I've been cleaned out from stem to never mind to where. I feel better than expected. He gestured with the food cubes and the flask. Zan says, once I catch up on some meals, I should be fine. Wait, hold on. Isn't it a terrible, terrible thing to be without, like, intestinal flora?
You kind of have to, like, restart it carefully, by eating, like,
muck.
Anything.
Vegetables with the muck still on.
I mean, I suppose it would actually be a good thing in, like, in a certain alien environment here when everything kind of gets reflushed with local microbes, as long as they're compatible enough with your own.
I mean, that must be the problem for everyone. They must have...
Yeah.
Oh, maybe the translator microbes have more than one function.
No. Wow.
Huh.
That sounds... I mean, it makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Erin slid down the prowler's ladder, landing lightly enough that it made no sound. She ducked under the nose and opened an access panel on the far side. All that showed of her was the lower half of her legs. Crichton squatted down, admiring as much of the view as he could see.
You were foolish not to say anything when you swallowed the dentic, Crichton. It's not a pleasant way to die, her disembodied voice said.
Starving to death, you mean?
Erin crouched down where she could see him, peering under the belly of the prowler. You would not have survived long enough to starve. Dentics will eat anything, Crichton. They are useful and serve their purpose because they are never allowed to feed to the point that they can begin to grow and to breed. But until someone discovered that they could be put to beneficial use, dentics were used as a method of assassination. Yikes!
I'm not getting your point, he said, after which he jammed half a dozen food cubes into his mouth and began munching.
Ducking under the prowler, Aaron walked over to John and squatted down beside him, turning one of the larger laser probes over and over in her hands. Once they reach a certain stage, dentics will eat anything in order to stay alive. Anything at all. You were very close to that stage. The scans showed that they had consumed every last bit of matter in your digestive tract. They would have begun feasting on something else very soon.
Crichton struggled to swallow his mouthful of food cubes and looked down at his stomach. I hadn't eaten anything in 2 days, he mumbled through a mouthful of crumbs.
That may have slowed the process down. If you had eaten, they would have bred faster and you would be dead by now. Why the frell didn't you say anything when you swallowed it?
Straightening up, Crichton wandered over to a workbench and hopped up to sit on it. Aaron, you and Dargo bust my chops about every single one of my mistakes.
Your mistakes can get any one of us killed. You have to learn, and you have to learn quickly.
Yes, Aaron, learn. Learn, Aaron. That doesn't mean get my ass busted every time I do something because I don't know the difference between right and wrong. The two of you let me blunder around and then stomp on me when I screw up. That's not teaching me. It's standing around doing diddly squat until I make a mistake, and then rubbing my nose in it. After enough of that sort of hazing, it gets easier not to ask than have to wade through all of your ridicule just to get an answer, which is why I didn't say anything this time. If someone gets killed because I screw up, part of it's going to be your fault.
Whoa. She got to her feet as well and wandered away from him. Still with her back turned, she asked, If I agree that you have a point, and this doesn't mean that I am agreeing, then what do you propose as a solution?
Deal.
Aaron turned around, looking suspicious. What kind of deal?
John hopped down from his perch on the workbench and went over to stand next to her. You stop treating me like the village idiot and show me how some of the things works around this oversized cross between an aircraft carrier and a pollywog, and I'll teach you how to learn on your own.
Suspicion morphed rapidly into anger. I know how to learn.
Damn right you know how to learn. I know you can learn, Aaron. I'm talking about a different way of learning, though it's... He stopped to think for several moments, then continued. It's like what you did when you figured out what was wrong with Rigel. How did that feel inside your head?
She shrugged and looked embarrassed. Pilot helped.
I heard a little bit about that. Answer the question, though. How did it feel inside your head when you were figuring out what had happened to the Hynerian hydrogen bomb?
Unpleasant. Unfamiliar. I didn't like it.
Until it was over and you had it figured out, he said, prompting her.
Yes.
That's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. You felt that because you weren't ever taught how to learn something new all by yourself. I'm trying to say that there are other ways to learn things than being bludgeoned over the head when it's too late. John paced a short distance around the maintenance bay, absent-mindedly rubbing his stomach. Look, it's the way you've been taught things all your life, Aaron. I understand that you're putting me through the same sort of training you've always been given.
This is incredible.
Yeah.
Which is, she asked, interrupting him.
You're used to field strategy exercises, which only test your ability to apply known techniques to new situations, after which you get punished if you screw up. He made another circuit around Maintenance Bay, energized and thinking hard at the same time. You were never taught how to learn, he said, putting stress on the word how.
I don't see a difference, Aaron shook her head. This is a waste of time.
Wait, let me explain it another way. When she didn't leave, he took it as permission to make another attempt. You want me to help you reprogram the nav systems in the hot rod, right? How do you think I figured out how they work? Oh, here we go. There comes the answer.
Oh.
I've never seen any of that stuff before, Aaron. They didn't offer Intergalactic Programming 101 at MIT. I just stick my nose in there and see what it's attached to what. No one showed me how to do it, how it functions. I teach myself.
This is so good. Her tone, when she answered, was speculative. I assumed it was similar to what you had in your ship.
Not even close. John waited, giving her time to work it out.
Instead of teaching me how to adjust the nav system, you're proposing to teach me how to teach myself how it works, she said.
He pointed at her with both forefingers. You got it.
Oh, he's doing finger guns.
Yeah.
Erin was beside the prowler again, looking toward the cockpit with a quiet sort of eagerness in her eyes. She turned to look at John, the enthusiasm cooling under the weight of suspicion. And what do you want in return?
He ran a thumb along his lower lip and then scratched his head for a moment. 2 things. First, you stop busting my butt every time I botch something up that I don't know jack about.
You can't expect me to do anything about Dargo, she said.
I'll take care of Dargo on my own. He's my problem, not yours.
She nodded. All right, I agree. What's the second thing?
There are skills I need to survive around here that I can't pick up on my own. You agreed to teach me those sort of things, preferably without shooting me in the process? Crichton took a long drink out of a flask, put the cap back on it, and waited for her reply.
Erin waited. Erin watched him for several microns, her head tilted to one side. Give me an example.
You can start by teaching me how to fly the transport pod.
She spun away from him with a frustrated, "Oh, for Frell's sake!"
He went after her, gesturing with both arms, his voice rising with each additional segment of his argument. What? You think I can't learn? I can teach how to not... I can learn how to not eat dentic, how to lock myself out of my own quarters by accident, how not to frill up the internal comms for the entire ship because I was trying to reset my comms, and best of all, I can learn how to do things with the nav systems of your currently useless dragster parked over there that you don't have a clue how to adjust when we jump from one part of the galaxy to the next. Why is learning to fly the transport any different?
Go get him! She turned on him, forcing him to back up several steps in a hurry. Okay, I guess there are limits. Because if you make a mistake while I'm attempting to teach you, we both die.
No shit, Aaron. According to you and Dargo, 9/10 of the things I do every day can get us killed. This won't be any different. Is it a deal or not?
She looked between Crichton and the Prowler several times, grey-blue eyes examining invisible facets of what he was proposing. The ability to adapt to fast-changing conditions would provide a tactical advantage, she said at last.
He grinned, both eyebrows raised in cheerful inquiry. That sounded sort of like a yes? Was it a yes? Do we have a deal?
Yes, we have a deal, Crichton.
He hooted and bounded across the maintenance bay, heading for a workbench covered in testing equipment and tools. Snatching up half a dozen tools, he ran to the Prowler and scrambled up the ladder, shouting, "Johnny's enrolled in driver's ed. Come on, I'll show you how to figure out how this bad boy's nav system works. It's a good place to start the learning lessons because it's really one of the simplest systems you've ever seen. It's a beautiful design system, Aaron. You should be proud of the peacekeeper who thought this up."
That's really nice.
Yeah.
She went up the ladder right behind him. 5 microns later, they were both jammed into the cockpit, heads together, Erin listening intently as John explained how to begin the mystifying process of learning something entirely on her own. The end.
Thanks for reading by KernilCrash, purveyor of hallucinations.
Wow, this was really good.
Yeah, it was a fantastic story. I like that.
Wow. Okay, and it's followed by quite a few comments about people like enjoying the story. I will be adding our own on both of our behalfs. You are forbidden from terraformaescapers.com.
I'm not looking at this. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. That is not safe for Kay. But thank you so much to KernilCrash, apparently an administrator of terraformaescapers.com. A fantastic forum, and I think it's like the second incarnation. I think it's... there was something that came before it. I'll figure that out. And also to Kathy for recommending it to us. And thank you to you, our listeners. We will see you next week with Season 3, Episode 2, Sons and Lovers. Do you have I told you to look out for a favorite quote.
Favorite phrase, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it was quite at the beginning, where it was like Aaron glared suspiciously at the Luxon, one eyebrow performing a gradual quizzical levitation.
Yes.
The adjustment modified her expression from anger to a less potentially explosive form of aggravated curiosity. Yes, I love that one.
All right. Bye. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
We're waving. Bye.